we're going to be showing Donate for Need.
Cool. Thanks, Darren. Hi, everyone. So as Darren mentioned, my name is Christa. I work at Intuit. I've been there for 5 years now. I'm going to be walking you through a case study about an experiment that we're running in the mobile space right now. So my presentation is a little bit different from the previous ones in that it's more of understanding the process that we use when we have an idea and how we take that idea into an app, and where along that journey we really have to, an example of when in that journey we really have to start thinking about the cross-platform problem. So just a little background on Intuit. We are a financial software company. You may have heard of TurboTax. Some of you may have used it recently to file your taxes. We also make software for small businesses. The big one's QuickBooks. Chris, following me, is going to be doing a case study on one of our core offerings, which is a mobile app called SnapTax. And the example that I'm walking you through is something that me and some of my colleagues have been working on in our white space time. So every employee at Intuit has 10% of their time to spend on any project that they want to, any idea, any technology. So it's really cool to have the freedom to really explore, not only with technologies, but explore with customers and ideas. So this is an idea that has come out of that. And it's a project that is under our Intuit Labs brand, which we use that for our experimental projects. So one of our operating values is that the only failure is the failure to learn fast. This ties in with our big customer focus. So part of this value is that we're not in love with our current solutions. We're in love with solving our customers' problems. So we are really a customer-driven organization that we focus on solving real needs for customers. So the process we use when we experiment with mobile ideas, anything under Intuit Labs, is that we still go to customers first and make sure that we're solving a real problem, so that when we ultimately build a solution, we know that it's going to be used. So before really delving into the cross-platform problem and really looking at a whole bunch of tools, and those were awesome demos, so thank you for showing those. But even before we get there, we have to make sure that we're solving the real customer problem. You don't want to get too far down the road in code and make an awesome solution and have nobody use it. So some of you may be familiar with this. It's the Lean Startup Principle by Eric Ries. He's pretty famous by now. This is the approach we take for everything new that we build, whether it's a new feature in one of our large offerings or if it's an experiment in Intuit Labs. So this model up here is, spoiler alert, it's the main part of the Lean Startup. So this is called the build, measure, learn loop. So let's say you have an idea for the next best thing. That would be your vision or your core idea. And what you want to do is build a minimum viable product. So build the smallest thing that you can build to help validate that idea. And after you build, you have a product. That could be a software product. It could be something physical, a prototype that you take to a customer. Just anything that you can use to measure, anything that you can use to validate your idea. Once you have a product, you need a way to measure the outcome. Was it a success or not? So you need some form of a metric. And with the data that you get from your metric, you have to learn from it. You have to decide to either persevere with that idea, so your hypothesis was validated, or to pivot, so steer to something else if you didn't get the results you expected. This is applicable in the mobile space. It's applicable with anything really, but you want to be going through this loop as many times as you can and as fast as you can, because the more you go through it, the more ideas and hypotheses that you're able to verify. So in startup lingo, you have your leaps of faith hypotheses, the things that if they don't prove out, your app is going to fail. So you always want to be testing those things first. And at every stage of your development, you're going to have a leap of faith. whether you're adding in a new feature or if it's at the very beginning of your project. This is applicable and you're going to be going through this loop. So you want to iterate quickly, you want to have a way to gather metrics, and ultimately you need a way to validate whether or not your experiments have passed before spending too much time in the code. So as we have seen, we're all here today because mobile development is exciting and it's the future, but it also can prove difficult. But if we've gone through the process that Lean Startup guides us through, we're not going to be spending too much time trudging through device-specific code before we know that we have an idea that is going to have legs. So before spending too much time focusing on how to solve the cross-platform problem, you hopefully will have gone through iterations to really have confidence in what you're going to be producing in the end. So a suggestion, and this is what we did with Donate for Need, the experiment that I'll walk you through, was to start with a web app. They're a really great place to start because they're really fast. You can whip them up quickly. They're easy to host. You can make changes whenever you want. You have control over deployments, and you can also control who you distribute them to. So it's not out on the store, it's not out for everyone, but for example, for this particular project, we used a Twitter, we tweeted out a link to our app to specific groups, and that allowed us to control the sets of who we were exposing it to before we were ready to really go broad. So this is a good tool to use for testing. So this case study in particular, it's a very simple idea where Intuit as a company puts a lot of pride, I guess, in being involved in the community around us and to help solve problems that will help the greater good. So we were challenged to come up with a solution that does just that. So this particular app is to help charities receive donations of items they actually need. And we took the use case of the food bank where they receive a lot of donations of pasta, but there are certain items that they actually are in desperate need of and people don't necessarily think to donate them. For example, baby food. So we wanted to build something that could help bridge that gap. And this was a good example of a really diligent use of the Lean Startup model. So I wanted to show you it. We have a little video that walks you through the process we used. So I'll just escape out of here. And kind of cheesy, but it shows the point, the process. Okay, so so this is a screenshot of the web app that we built to help validate our idea. It's just using jQuery mobile, and it's very, very simple. And this is pretty much all we needed as a starting point to help validate our ideas. So an example of what we were able to do with this, because we didn't jump the gun and build the thing that we were planning initially, we really played around with our basic assumptions. And one of them was that when people know what they're donating, when they know the effect that their donation has, that actually makes them want to donate more, or gives that emotion of pride. And in order to test that, we ran an experiment where we had an option for donating money, and it didn't get used very much. And then we switched the wording on it to say, feed a family of 4, and it was just a $50 donation. So underneath it was really a monetary donation, but it was just changing the way that you think about the action that you're doing. And that feature raised $10,000 for the Edmonton Food Bank within 3 months. So there's surprises like that if we had jumped the gun, we may never have found it. But because of this process and how it forced us to really break down the idea and break down our assumptions, it led us to some cool ideas. But there will come a time where you outgrow your web app. You can't just stay there because, for example, in this project, what we're finding is we need to find ways to test reuse. And web apps, at least what we built, it isn't something that inherently people think of as something to come back to. It's a static list. It's just something people may check out from Twitter, but that use case is inherently not something that drives reuse. So now is our time to really go onto the App Store and Google Play and get people actually using an app so that we can test device-specific features, have it be a lot more slick, and really understand the reuse concepts for this app. So now we're at the point where we need to think about design more closely and how we're going to implement. And the same sort of model that we've all been mentioning in the different demos. The demos really showed us 2 ways to get there, but just in general, it's all about abstracting shared functionality. You don't want to be coding stuff that can be shared multiple times. So you want to leverage the native features, native interactions. You want to build something that is fun to use on your device. And the approach we're taking is by building two native apps that really do leverage those things, but we're going to consolidate as much of the logic in the backend code as possible so that the apps themselves are very thin and the logic is happening separately. So we are currently building Android and iOS apps. What we're doing right now is pretty much taking what we had in our MVP and building them natively. And because it's a lot easier and faster to publish on Google Play than the App Store, we're going to treat our Android app as our feature test bed. So we're not going to put anything into the app that we haven't run through that build, measure, learn loop. So we're going to be doing those experiments in Android and then taking successful features and implementing them into our iOS version. So that was the case study on Donate for Need. And just to let you know, we have a ton of experiments running on Intuit Labs. The website is intuitlabs.com, and you can check out any of the experiments that are running company-wide, developed here in Edmonton or California, India, anywhere. So it's a really cool place to see what we're working on, and this mindset of using Lean Startup and that build, measure, learn model is the approach that we take for almost all of those projects. That's it.